Let's talk about the shape of the Earth. There are some who believe that the Earth is flat. There's actually a Flat Earth Society. Their website claims that they support free thinkers and intellectuals. I'm not so sure about that. But there are supporters who have gone on national TV to claim something that just we know isn't true. But let's talk about it. Let's think about this as a claim. The claim that the Earth is flat. Is there evidence? Unfortunately, there is some evidence that supports that the Earth actually may be flat. For example, if you walk around on the Earth, of course, it feels flat, it looks flat. The Flat Earth Society claims that Antarctica is a 150-foot wall of ice that sits around the rim of the Earth. I mean, think about that for a second. I know it seems crazy, but that could actually work. The Flat Earth Society claims that if you were to sail in any direction, you would hit that wall of ice. And that's actually true. If you were to sail out in any direction, you would eventually hit Antarctica. It's a very large continent. That's where it ends. That's about as far as the evidence will get you. Because when you talk about the Earth being round, there's a lot of evidence that supports that. So let's talk about how we know the Earth is round. And our first piece of evidence comes from space. So on May 18th, 1969, the Apollo 10 spacecraft was headed towards the moon, and it turned itself so that the astronauts could see the Earth. And they photographed the Earth from 36,000 miles away. And that's what the Earth looks like from space. This is the first Earth selfie taken by the astronauts in 1969. So that should be it, right? Case closed. That's probably our best form of evidence. I mean, you can even factor in that there's a space station, the ISS, that's orbiting the Earth right now, photographing, taking video. You can clearly see the Earth is curved. So you would think that that would be enough evidence. And it is, but we're going to go one step further. The knowledge that the Earth was round actually dates back even further than 1969. So the most historical reference comes from this. These are phases of the moon. The phases of the moon occur when different portions of the moon are visible during the month. It has to do with the moon's position, the Earth's position, the sun's position. So if you observe these images, these are all different phases, from left to right, you can see that there's a curved shadow on most of the phases. So the portion that you see, the black line, is called the terminator. That's usually a curved line. So that curved line, that curved shadow, can only be cast by another curved object. And it was Aristotle who first observed this. He saw during a lunar eclipse, and a lunar eclipse is when the Earth moves into a position to block sunlight on a full moon, that during that lunar eclipse, the shadows cast on the moon were always curved. So the curvature that you see in this picture, that curvature is the shadow of the Earth. So if it has a curved shadow, then the Earth must also be curved. It must be round. So that was the most ancient piece of evidence. And to support that claim by Aristotle, both Pythagoras and Eratosthenes were able to use math to calculate that the Earth had to be round based on distances from a central point. So that's some really good evidence from the past. Here's some more evidence that you may not have ever realized. If you were to watch a boat sail away from you, so as the boat, you're waving on the shore, you're waving on the dock, bye, 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 bye. The boat sails away, it gets smaller, but then eventually that boat is going to seemingly sink. It's going to look like it disappears. Now, obviously, it doesn't really disappear. Where does it go? The boat is following the curve of the Earth. Because the Earth is curved, we can only see it for a certain amount of time before it falls out of our viewpoint. It's still on the Earth, it's still in the water, but it's gone with the curvature of the Earth, and as the Earth curves away from us, it appears that it's sinking. So that's evidence right there that the Earth is curved or round, because ships don't sink. They don't sink when they get out of our sight line. And the final piece of evidence has to do with gravity. So imagine an observer standing on Earth anywhere. I know this observer's in the ocean. That doesn't matter. But just pretend. They feel an attraction. And we have an attraction to the Earth, which is the force of gravity. You can measure that force of gravity using weight. The formula for weight is mass times gravity. So your mass, however much matter is inside of you, multiplied by the gravitational pull, is going to be your weight. So your weight on Earth has to do with your distance from the center. If you were to go anywhere on Earth and measure your weight, it should always be about the same. And that's because you are pretty much the same distance from the center in all directions, because the Earth is round. So because your weight is always the same, or close to being the same, that proves that the Earth is a round object, because all distances are equidistant from the center. Unlike if the Earth was flat, then if you're at the equator, you'd be a lot further from the center than if you were at the pole, because the shape of the Earth in that case would be very different, and your distance to the center would also be very different. So to sum up, the pull of gravity is just about equal from all points on Earth, so therefore the Earth must be a sphere. And those are our 4 pieces of evidence that the Earth is round. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.